For those of you joining us right now, this is an NBC News Special Report, a news conference just getting underway with the latest on that mass casualty situation, the shooting that took the lives of approximately 20 people. Let's listen in.
Which group do you think he might be associated with and why?
Well, I think it's more likely than not that it was an ideologically motivated attack. Right now, we don't have any direct information that he was associated with any particular group, but it does seem that it's no coincidence that the attack took place where it did and when it did.
Do you think the type of club it was a target for a specific reason?
I think it's very likely the case. We'll know more if there's any indication of that through his personal papers, through his involvement in social media, and so on. We'll learn more about that over time, but certainly it would not surprise me.
Why do you feel that it would be that club? Why do you feel that club may have been a direct target?
Oh, because it's a gay club, and it might be that we've seen a commission of an awful hate crime last night.
Talk about why you're out there.
Well, our sadness and the fact that we well understand that it could have happened to anybody. It's in the nature of terrorism that all of us feel, there but for the grace of God go I. And that is the very function of it. 20 people are dead, over 40 people are injured, but thousands upon thousands of people feel some degree of fear. All of these people, every single one of them that died or was injured, was innocent. And it could have happened to any one of us, anywhere, anytime. That's the nature of terrorism.
Sir, Congressman, you said the White House has been notified. Can you repeat that part?
Yes, he's in his late 20s. He lives in Port St. Lucie. He himself is a U.S. citizen. That's not true of some of his family members.
And his name?
Omar Matin.
Where does this came from?
Police are going to release that information when they're ready to do that.
You said the White House has been notified?
Yes. What I've been doing, among other things, at Sheriff Deming's request, is to try to make sure that the hospital is free to let those who are in the hospital trying to help their injured relatives provide that assistance without violating privacy laws, what are called the HIPAA laws. So we're doing our part in my office to make sure that there are no bureaucratic impediments to letting them comfort the injured. I don't know. Every victim has been removed.
Have you heard anything about it?
Well, let me put it this way. The nationality of family members is indicative. But again, the police are holding back that information until it's time for that to come out, until they've done a full background check on him, gone into his home, found whatever evidence there may be in his home, computers and writings and so on, as well as checking social media.
Do you believe he might have had help?
There's no evidence of that at this point.
Do you have an update on the bomb situation? Is there still a problem with the device?
The police never actually said it was a bomb. They said it was a suspicious device. All the killing that was done was with an assault rifle, with a single weapon, an assault rifle. It was done very quickly also. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, ma'am. It will take many hours. There's an enormous amount of havoc in that building right now. There's blood everywhere. I spoke to somebody who was on the site, and there is an enormous amount of evidence to be collected systematically over the course of many hours at the site.
Okay, we're good. Larger press conference.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That's Congressman Alan Grayson, represents the 9th District of Florida, covering parts of Orlando, talking about the shooting. Many of the information we knew. Omar Matin is the man described there by Congressman Grayson. In his late 20s, we believe he's 29 years old, living at an address anyway in the Port St. Lucie area. Let's bring in NBC's Gabe Gutierrez as we watch a bomb disposal unit there move outside the nightclub there in Orlando. Gabe, good morning again.
Willie, good morning. Yes, it is still a very active scene here in Orlando. Behind me, the authorities have kept the media and bystanders several blocks away from the nightclub. As you mentioned, at least about 20 people are dead. At least 42 were wounded and taken to local hospitals. Now, this investigation is just ongoing, and now with the identification of the suspect, now there are lots of questions about the motive. NBC News did speak with the father of that suspect. They were able to reach him we were able to reach him by phone, and the father said that it's possible that his son actually noticed a while back in Miami 2 men kissing, and that may have caused this, according to his father. Again, authorities are still looking into that to see.
Gabe, I'm going to have to stop you right here. We have
a possible motive.
Gabe, forgive me. I'm going to interrupt you as we go to the police briefing.
Better access to the building. We have cleared the building, and it is with great sadness that I share we have not 20 but 50 casualties. In addition to the shooter, there are another 53 that are hospitalized. Because of the scale of the crime, I've asked the governor to declare a state of emergency. We're also issuing a state of emergency for the city of Orlando so that we can bring additional resources to bear to deal with the aftermath. Our focus is going to be on identifying the victims and notifying the families. We're setting up a hotline for concerned family members. There's 407-246-4357. The identification process may take some time, so we ask for your patience because we want to be accurate. Concerned family members can call the hotline, however, and let them know that you have someone that you are concerned about. I continue to be so proud of our community, the support that is shown, the response that has been made. I'm also thankful to entities from all around the country and all over the state of Florida. The governor has made all the resources of the state of Florida available. Orange County has made all of their resources available. We have assistance from the White House, so every possible asset we have brought to bear. Mayor Jacobs.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. Of course, let me start with expressing my sympathy for the families, for the loved ones of those who we have lost in the last 24 hours. We know that this affects a large segment of our community. We know that we have a very close-knit LGBT community who has been dramatically impacted by this. So to everyone who is impacted, I want you to know that our thoughts and prayers are with you, and that we are a united community, and that what we saw last night does not reflect what we feel in our hearts and our souls here in Orange County. And I am calling on every citizen here in Orange County to never forget that we stand together in times of adversity, but we don't just stand together as the city of Orlando and Orange County. We stand together as a country. We have heard from Texas, we have heard from states all across the country wanting to know what they can do to help. So when evil like this comes to our community, we respond in force. I guarantee you we will do that again. And thank you all for everything that you do to make this such a wonderful place to be. We know it's going to take time to be able to answer the questions of the loved ones, and there's nothing more difficult than waiting to find out the status of the people that you love. Please be patient. We're doing our best. Thank you.
As Mayor Dyer said, at this point, the nightclub Pulse has been cleared and deemed safe of any devices. We're in the process of clearing the suspect's vehicle, which is a van right outside. And we ask that people be patient. Unfortunately, there are many victims inside the club, but like was said, our priority will be on the identification of the victims and notification of the next of kin. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all the outpouring of law enforcement support from as far away as Boston and Chicago that let us use their resources if needed. And of course, great community support from the Central Florida law enforcement community as well. I also want to commend the heroic and courageous actions of the initial responding officers who exchanged gunfire with the suspect, and also the heroic and courageous actions of our SWAT team who rescued at least 30 victims, possible victims, and brought them to safety. So again, at this point, just patience, because unfortunately this tragedy and the amount of bodies that are in there, amount of victims, it's going to take some time. Thank you. We'll answer questions at the end.
I'm Sheriff Jerry Demings, and I join our entire community in offering our sympathy to these families who have lost loved ones. This has certainly been a tragic day for all of us, and in that this is a day of worship in most places in America. we do call upon the members of the clergy to pray for those families and for this community and this nation for healing. In the last several hours, the men and women here in law enforcement have been working diligently to ensure the overall safety of everyone involved. You all have seen most recently where there were members of our hazardous device team, our bomb units, have been working from the Orange County Sheriff's Office with units from the Orlando Fire Department to make certain that we did not have any secondary type devices or what have you that were in the crisis site itself. That process has taken an extended period of time to ensure the safety of everyone, and so that's why we have not been able to remove all of the victims, if you will, from the crisis site at this point. That process is continuing. We likely have another hour or two of operational necessity to ensure the safety before we can begin that process. But we do appreciate the collaborative effort amongst all of the different local governments as well as our state and our federal government. We've all come together in unity to address this issue, and on behalf of our entire community, we thank you, the media, for covering these events and this tragedy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, can you please confirm 50 dead?
We'll take questions after we're finished with the prepared statements.
Hello, the FBI has confirmed the subject involved in this shooting incident. At this time, we were making the notifications to the next of kin, so we will have that name to be officially released to you at the next press conference. What I want to put out right now is that, as we all know, in many situations, people come and go to nightclubs such as these. So what I'm asking is if anyone out there attended this nightclub and then left before the shooting happened, I would urge you to still call in and come and talk to our investigators, because you don't know exactly what you may or may not have seen. So we would appreciate everyone coming forward, no matter how small the evidence in your mind may be. The other thing is we are actually setting up a family assistance center at the Hampton Inn located at 43 Columbia Street. We currently have it now at ORMC, but we're going to go ahead and move it down to the hotel in order to accommodate more family members and attempt to reunite people with either their loved ones or gather information on people who have not yet been located.
Can you just confirm that number again? 50? Did you say 50?
50, yes.
In addition to 53 in the hospital.
You mentioned earlier.
I thought we had one more. We have a couple more people who are going to speak, and then we'll answer some questions.
Good morning. As many of you are aware, a little after 2 o'clock this morning, we were notified of many victims, gunshot victims. As Central Florida's only level 1 trauma center, we immediately activated our mass casualty incident plan. We immediately brought in 6 trauma surgeons to respond, including 1 pediatric trauma surgeon. We have spent the morning operating on a number of victims. We continue to operate on them. We have found many of them are critically ill as a result of their injuries. And we are in the process of trying to reunite families as we identify the names of these victims. As has been mentioned, this will take some time, and we ask for your patience. But we will reunite the families and the victims just as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Do you need blood donors?
Blood is a wonderful gift. That can all be arranged through the local blood banks. Please don't come to the local hospitals. But you can work through the local blood banks to be able to donate.
Many stations joining us right now expecting to see Meet the Press, but this is an NBC News special report with an update on the horrific mass shooting at a nightclub in Orlando. Police still briefing us there. Let's listen in.
My name is Muhammad Musri. I'm the President and Senior Imam of the Islamic Society of Central Florida and National President of American Islam. I'm here today to stand as a faith leader with our law enforcement community and our city leadership in this hour of horror that was brought upon our city. I've worked with these leaders for over 20 years. I know their caliber, their strength, and their determination to make sure the city is safe.
Can all be arranged through the local blood banks. Please don't come to the local hospitals, but you can work through the local blood banks to be able to donate.
Many stations joining us right now expecting to see Meet the Press, but this is an NBC News Special Report with an update on the horrific mass shooting at a nightclub in Orlando. Police still briefing us there. Let's listen in.
My name is Muhammad Musri. I'm the President and Senior Imam of the Islamic Society of Central Florida and National President of American Islam. I'm here today to stand as a faith leader with our law enforcement community and our city leadership in this hour of horror that was brought upon our city. I've worked with these leaders for over 20 years. I know their caliber, their strength, and their determination to make sure the city is safe. And I call on everybody in the community, anybody who has any information, to please call the FBI, share what you know. It may help answer many unanswered questions yet. I also call on my fellow faith leaders, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, whatever faith you follow. Please pray for the victims and their families in this hour. On this Sunday morning, it's supposed to be a beautiful morning, but it is already a very heartbreaking morning. And I want to praise the courageous effort of our OPD, who risked their lives, put their life on the line. One of the officers, as we heard, was injured. And that's a risk they take every day to protect us. No one could have predicted this. No one could have prepared for it. This could have happened anywhere. It's like a lightning. So they have done a marvelous job to save as many lives after the shooter began shooting, and we are glad that the situation is completely under control. There are no other shooters, that this person is not known to be connected with a network or other people. So the city residents and the visitors should feel safe. The city is as safe as the best city in the world. And I want to also caution many in the media from rushing to judgment and from, sensationalizing the story, because we do not want this story to be shifted from the focus what it is. It's a horrible tragedy. We are mourning, we are sad, we are heartbroken, and it's not really time for any sensational news and rushing to judgment. So we should all wait till information, facts come out from the investigators, and we will all see what happened, understand it, and stay together, to work together to keep our community strong. I want to thank Mayor Dyer, Mayor Jacobs, our city leaders, Chief Mina and Sheriff Demings for their leadership, Ron from the FBI. I think many times in the past this has been discussed as the worst nightmare, and we are sorry to know that it happened to us. We don't wish this on anybody else, and we hope this would be the last of the mass shootings that our country has been going through. I think as a nation we need to look at this issue of mass shootings, because we just had one too many today, and I think we should do something about it to stop the mass shootings that are happening all the time. Thank you.
Question for Ron.
sir.
You were able to very early on say that the shooter appears to have leanings toward a radical Islamic terror connection. How is it that you guys were so quickly so sure of that track as opposed to this just being a hate crime, given that it happened at a gay nightclub?
Early on, when we had possible identification made, we run everything to ground, whether it winds up being the actual individual or not. And so, as I mentioned earlier, at this time I can't say exactly who the suspect or the deceased shooter is. Once we're able to do that, once the notification is made, then more details will be able to be shared, most likely from our counterterrorism division up at FBI headquarters.
Can you tell us what type of arsenal was found? How many rounds do you think were fired off?
Right now, the weapons recovered from the suspect who is dead was a handgun and a AR-15 type assault rifle. An unknown number of rounds, but there were additional rounds.
Did the suspect make any sort of call prior to the shooting, maybe to 911 or to another location, kind of indicating anything?
No indication of that as of yet.
Was there any communication with the suspect in those 3 hours before you went in? Between the arrival of the shots were fired and you finally going in to rescue the hostages?
There was some communication, but we're not going to release that right now.
Why did the SWAT team wait 3 hours?
Well, remember, this is a situation involving hostages, a situation involving things that happen very fast, and I think it was important for them to know exactly what they had. Once the initial shots were stopped, they were dealing with a hostage situation. So in that time, we need to set up, reevaluate, reassess what's happening, and make sure that all the pieces are in place. We have the enough staffing to take care of any situation. We have armored vehicles that come to the scene, and those were crucial in the rescue of those hostages. So anytime we have a hostage situation, we're definitely going to use extreme measures to make sure that we have enough personnel on the scene.
Were any of the hostages executed before you went in between the time that the shooting?
Yeah, I can't speak to that right now. That'll all be part of the investigation.
Early this morning, there was the thought that it may be 20 victims inside. That number has risen to 50. Is this now one of the top 5, if not the top, mass shootings in the country?
Absolutely, yes, it is. Yeah, so this morning, just based on what the initial officers saw, without jeopardizing any more safety, they thought there were about at least 20, but now it's up to 50. So definitely one of the worst tragedies.
Say this is the worst shooting in American history?
Yes.
Any indication that the suspect had any help, outside help?
There's no indication of that right now, but that'll all be part of the investigation.
Do we know if all of the 50 who were killed were shot during the initial shooting at 2, or were there any shootings after? Were there any shots fired after that initial shooting at 202?
There was an initial shooting at 202, numerous shots fired, and then there were gunshots exchanged between the SWAT team and the suspect at 0500 hours.
So of the 50 fatalities that we have, do we know if they were all killed during that initial shooting at 202, or were any of them killed after that?
That's unknown. That's unknown at this time.
So is this classified right now as a hate crime or as a terrorist attack?
At this point in time, we're just conducting a general investigation period. We'll determine officially whether it's a hate crime or a terrorism incident or even a violent crime once we have all the facts in place. We're at the very early stages, and as much as I would like to give you everything we have, we can't give you things that aren't 100% accurate, because then it's not fair to you.
So like you're saying last now, and you guys came back with an imam, and so I'm curious.
I'm sorry? A bomb?
An imam from
okay.
What has changed in the last 3 hours that you're giving us less information, but now you're calling for calm?
Well, again, so since the subject has not been positively identified to the next of kin, there's not a whole lot more we can share with you at this time. Also, bear in mind that we do not want to jeopardize the investigation. While we feel confident right now there are no other threats to the immediate area or the United States of America, we need to be certain of that before we put any further information out.
Were any injured by officers' fire? Is anyone injured by officers' fire, and were any officers injured?
Unknown at this time. Yeah, there was one officer injured. He was hit in the Kevlar helmet with a round from the suspect. The Kevlar helmet did stop that round, but the officer does have some injuries to his face from that gunshot.
How would you characterize the shooting? These weapons, did he come in shooting, or was he able to smuggle these weapons in and then?
Yeah, we're still early in the investigation. Unknown how he got into the club, but it appears like he was in there and then the shots were fired from the preliminary information.
How bad is this compared to other shootings across the country?
It's absolutely terrible. I mean, 50 victims in one location, one shooting. It's absolutely one of the worst tragedies we've seen.
Did the casualties rise in the hospital, or were there more bodies inside than
One more time?
Did the casualties rise in the hospital, or were there more bodies inside than
Yeah, exactly. There were more victims inside than originally thought. So once it was safe for us to go in and we determined there were no devices, that's when we were able to discover how many victims were actually in there.
Can you talk about where these victims were? Can you talk about what did it seem that these individuals were trying to get away from the gunfire?
Yeah, but that's all going to come out in the investigation. Right now we're going to focus on, obviously, the identification of all the victims and the notification of next of kin.
Between that time when you thought there was 20 and then 50, how long a period was it that you were able to get in there and see the
At least a few hours.
Congressman Peter King just said that the shooter is from Afghanistan and is trained in the use of weapons. He knows what he's doing. Can you speak to that at all?
No.
Is he a U.S. citizen?
Here we are, the city beautiful, the scene of one of the worst mass shootings in the U.S. Your thoughts?
Absolutely, it's definitely a tragedy, not only for the city but for our entire nation. You know, we believe this is a tragedy that could happen anywhere in the United States of America, and what we need to do is continue to be vigilant and call. If you see something, say something, and call anyone. Call 911, call the FBI. If you see something that's out of place, or you see someone that's acting strange behavior.
What is the median of the first responders on the scene?
No, we can't confirm that.
What is the median of the first responders on the scene?
Absolutely, just to look into the eyes of our officers told the whole story. Obviously, you know, some of those officers had 20 plus years on. One of the lieutenants, who was one of the first on the scene, he's a 23-year member of the police department and almost 20 years on the SWAT team. And you could tell that they were all shaken by this incident, by what they saw inside the club. They did a unbelievable job, courageous efforts in rescuing many hostages, at least 30 from inside the club. But after it was all said and done, you could tell really this kind of tragedy takes a toll on everyone, even law enforcement officers.
Can you describe what they saw?
So we're going to brief.
We're watching NBC News coverage of the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, with a death toll that now stands at 50. Let's go back to the press conference now.
As much information as we can disclose. There are guidelines for OPD and for the FBI and FDLE, but we're going to give you everything we can possibly give to you. Right now, we want to focus on identifying the victims and notifying their families. So I would hope you would lead with the information about how families can call in and check on their loved ones, or give information about they might think that their loved one was among those who are missing. And we
can you give that information?
You got it. Chief.
407-246-4357, 407-246-4357. People can call if loved ones want to call and try and get some information or help us with information. They could also call the FBI for any tips, and that's 1-800-CALL-FBI, and they'll just hit option number 2 when prompted. 1-800-CALL-FBI, option number 2 when prompted. And one more time, our hotline for family members is 407-246-4357.
So we'll target the next media briefing at 1. We're targeting the next media briefing at 1:30 today. We do understand that Governor Scott is en route, so he may want to do something before that, and we'll keep you guys updated on that. But the next law enforcement briefing will be at 1:30.
We can now classify this as the worst mass shooting in the history of the United States of America, with 50 now dead, according to police. 53 more injured. Doctors there saying many of those critically, so that number could rise. The FBI saying an AR-15 assault rifle was used along with a handgun found on the man, the shooter, named Omar Matin, a United States citizen born in 1986 in New York with an address in Port St. Lucie. We have a statement that we've reached out and to the man's father, telling us he's shocked, he's stunned by this, but he did go on to say that he saw his son. Here's what it says. We're saying we're apologizing for the whole incident. We weren't aware of any action he's taking. We're in shock like the whole country. This had nothing to do with religion. That is from the shooter's father when reached by NBC News. But he did go on to say, keep in mind, the shooting took place at a very popular gay nightclub in Orlando. The man's father went on to say that Omar Matin saw two men kissing a couple of months ago in Miami and became enraged by that. So his own father suspects that may have something to do with it. Let's bring in NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams. Pete, what more can you tell us after that press conference?
Matin is 29 years old. There's a little confusion here because his father's last name is Siddiqui, and we weren't quite sure about the name, but now we're sure it is Omar Matin. The father told us that he uses the last name Matin, even though his father's last name is Siddiqui. Born in New York, but was living near his parents in Florida. We think that the FBI had looked at him, or there'd been some local investigation of him a couple of years ago because of some people he was associating with, but we're told that nothing came of that, and that he was not on any kind of current surveillance. Now, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is tracing to see how he got the weapons that he used, the assault-style rifle, as the police described it, an AR-15-style rifle, which can carry a high-capacity magazine, and also a handgun. It's going to take a long time for the forensic work to be done to see whether the people who were shot inside were shot with the handgun or with the AR-15 type weapon. He did have a license to carry guns. He had a security guard's license and either was or had been at one time working as a security guard. So he had we believe, some familiarity with firearms. We don't know of any criminal past, so he would have been legally entitled to buy those weapons. There was no restriction on that in Florida on acquiring assault weapons. Not sure about the Florida gun law on high-capacity magazines, but we've so often seen in these mass shootings that the people who carry them out use high-capacity magazines because of the simple fact that they can repeatedly fire without having to reload or change magazines. The magazine is the term for the device that attaches to the weapon that holds the rounds. But it's going to be a while before we know what was used to carry out the attack. So there's a very aggressive investigation to go on now to see whether, as you heard the police say, was this an act of radical terrorism, Islamic-inspired radicalism, or was it a hate crime, or were there aspects of both? And it's going to be a while before we know the answer to that, but that's a very urgent question. You heard the authorities say that the next of kin are still being notified, but I think they've pretty well finished with that now. Maybe the word hasn't reached the authorities in Florida that work is pretty well done now. So they will be releasing the name here shortly, and we're told by a number of officials and family members that it is Omar Matin, 29 years old, originally born in New York. Not sure when he and the family moved to Florida, but that's something that the investigators will now be trying to do, is retrace his steps, build, a timeline, a chronology of all the events leading up to this, going back, certainly in granular detail, hours and days leading up to this. Who was this person talking to? When did this plan come into focus? Why and when did he choose this particular nightclub in Orlando, which is not right outside his home? If he was living in Port St. Lucie, that's 100 or so miles away. Why then? Why that place? Those are always the questions that they'll try to answer.
Again, the initial assessment from law enforcement from their first press briefing was that approximately 20 people had been killed. But in the intervening hours, they went into that club and found 50 killed in this nightclub shooting, the Pulse nightclub, very popular place in South Orlando. Police initially said there were probably 300 or more people in the club when the shooting began sometime around 2 o'clock this morning. If you're just joining us, here's basically how it happened. 2 o'clock in the morning, Orlando time. The man we now know to be Omar Matin, armed with an assault-style rifle, an AR-15, and a handgun, starts shooting at the Pulse nightclub. There was a uniformed Orlando police officer working security who immediately engaged the shooter, but it developed into a hostage situation that lasted more than 3 hours. Sometime around 5 o'clock Eastern time, 5 in the morning that is, a SWAT team was sent in. The decision was made that they had to go in and take out Omar Matin. They did just that. 9 Orlando police officers were involved, one of them injured when he was shot in the head, saved, police say, by the Kevlar helmet he was wearing. But again, the number now, 50 dead in Orlando in this now historically awful nightclub shooting. Pete, when we spoke a little bit earlier, you said no criminal record as far as we know for Omar Matin, but he had been touched on in some way, perhaps by authorities, perhaps in the span of another investigation. Any more information on that, on whether or not he was perhaps known to authorities?
No more information on that. What we've been told here from a couple of federal officials is that his name was in a kind of a watch list, or at least someone who had come across the FBI's range of interest 3 or 4 years ago, but more because we believe at this point that he was in touch with some other people that were investigated. In other words, he was sort of on the periphery of people they were looking at. But this happens all the time, where the FBI becomes interested in someone. This is such a difficult thing for law enforcement. Somebody says something that they're interested in carrying out an attack, or they're in touch with known radicals. Then you look at those other people, but you can't just look at them forever. And if they don't seem to be in any kind of an active role or supporting anyone, then you move on. Where our initial information is he was sort of on the edge. He was someone that other people who were at the focus of interest were looking at.
All right, Pete Williams, we'll be back with you shortly. We want to turn now, though, to Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer, kind enough to take some time with us. Mr. Mayor, I begin with extended national condolences to you and your city for the unthinkable loss that you have suffered this morning, sir.
Well, thank you. It's certainly unimaginable and the worst tragedy that has ever occurred in our city.
Tell me about the phone call you received this morning. What time was it, and what did you hear?
I got a phone call about 3 o'clock letting me know that we had a hostage situation at the nightclub. The majority of the shooting had already occurred at that time. We had set up a command center. We knew that there were hostages inside. We were receiving text messages. The shooter was in one area of the club with an unknown number of hostages, we think 6 or 7, but there were another 15 to 20 hostages in another area. About 5 o'clock, OPD made the decision that they would breach the wall in the area where the 15 to 20 hostages were. We successfully evacuated all of those hostages, but during that course of time, the shooter emerged. That's when one of our officers got wounded, and when the shooter was taken down.
Can you tell us the status of that injured officer? We understand he was shot in the head, but was wearing his Kevlar helmet.
He received scratches. He's going to be fine, but the helmet certainly saved his life.
The response from your uniformed officer working security there at 2 o'clock this morning at the nightclub, he may have saved a lot of lives by engaging this man as he walked in. What can you say about the work that your police force did today?
All of our police officers, as well as sheriff's deputies who also responded, are true heroes today. As bad as the total is, it could have been worse. There were at least 300 people that were in the nightclub when the shooter began his rampage. One of our officers did engage him in a shootout, which I am led to understand then led to the hostage situation. So he's certainly a hero, as are all of the officers who breached the building and took the and rescued the hostages, quite honestly, and then took the shooter down.
Mayor Buddy Dyer, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And again, our condolences to you and the city of Orlando on a terrible day.
Thank you very much.
Let's turn now to NBC's Tom Brokaw. He's in Washington. Tom, you've been watching this all morning. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that this is a tragedy of epic proportions. It's just god-awful, the worst mass shooting in our country's history. And, of course, it comes in the middle of a very heated political debate. Twitter is already alight with folks weighing in from both sides, people pointing to the Islamic name, other people pointing to the use of an AR-15. I really think it's in the country's best interest, and especially the candidate's best interest, to take a beat here and engage in a thoughtful dialogue, a prayerful dialogue, if you will, about what we've come to in this country, where everything seems to get settled by a gun for whatever reasons. We don't know whether this was ISIS motivated or it was just one deranged individual. We don't know yet, and we deserve to know what the motivation may have been before we can engage in a debate that may lead us to some kind of a resolution of too many mass murders in this country, not just because of Islamic-inspired mass murders, but we have them all across America now. More than 3 people being killed at a time is designated a mass murder, and between Santa Barbara and now, there have been clusters of them across America. That eventually has to be part of who we are and how we talk about it as a civilized people. That was my hope, at least, Willie.
And Tom, the other side of this is that, you know, we've come to know terrorism over the last 15 years as a vast international network. But now what we've seen time and again are isolated people who can work alone and wreak this kind of havoc with a gun.
Well, that's the point. And we have not had, I believe, a really enlightened discussion about how we deal with that kind of rage, whether it's motivated by a distorted version of what Islam is all about, is some kind of an outraged citizen who wants to take revenge on whoever is before him. But especially we have to talk about what's going on in the Middle East with ISIL still having such a grip on that part of the world, and bombing them back to the Stone Age probably is not going to work because they reconstitute themselves very quickly. And do we know that they have a network in this country? Most national security experts say, yeah, there are hidden cells. We don't know whether this has anything to do with all of that. And it's very important for the country to take a deep breath, get the facts in hand, and then I hope we can reach across partisan lines and have the kind of discussion that may lead to some sort of resolution of it all, Willie.
Well, here are the facts. Omar Matin is the shooter's name, 29 years old, as reported to us by Pete Williams, an address living in Port St. Lucie, Florida, a U.S. citizen, born in the state of New York, and law enforcement officials telling NBC News that they believe he was radicalized in some way by propaganda. How he was radicalized or by whom or what, they're not saying right now. Tom, stay with me if you would. I want to bring in NBC's Gabe Gutierrez because he's down in Orlando on the scene with more. Gabe, good morning again.
Willie, good morning. Well, here on the scene, we're getting a sense of just the massive scale of the scene that investigators now have to process. As you've been mentioning, a few hours ago at that news conference, it was about 20 people dead. Now that investigators have been able to get into the nightclub, that death toll climbing to at least 50 dead, 53 injured. Just an incredible scene here in Orlando. And witnesses throughout the night have been describing this chaotic scene. And one of them that we spoke with, Christopher Hansen, says that the shots rang out at first. Many of the people in the club thought that it was part of the music. There was mass confusion going on. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about the moment that police responded.
Then you hear just bang, 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 and it's continuous. So at first we thought it sounded like the music, and then after that, I looked over and I saw bodies falling, people screaming.
Just an incredible scene here in Orlando. He also went on to say that as he was leaving the nightclub, as he managed to crawl out, he saw one man that had a gunshot wound, and he tried to help him. He's not sure how that man ended up, but he was able to take him to paramedics. Again, the investigation ongoing here. Over the last few hours, police have been busing several of the witnesses to the Orlando Police Department to interview them. And from the aerial pictures we have seen that a bomb disposal robot is still on the scene. Again, that suspect recovered with an assault-style type rifle, a handgun, and also some sort of suspicious device that no doubt police are going through right now. Willie, back to you.
Can police say they have cleared the nightclub of any explosive devices that they may have been looking for, and of the suspect's, the shooter's car, which was a van parked right outside the club? Gabe, thanks so much. We'll be back to you shortly. You are watching NBC News coverage of the worst mass shooting in United States history. Police briefing us about 20 minutes ago, 50 people now dead. Another 53 brought to the hospital after a shooting inside Pulse nightclub, a popular gay nightclub in Orlando. The gunman, identified by federal law enforcement sources as Omar Matin of Port St. Lucie, Florida, he is now dead. He was killed when SWAT teams stormed